Okay, so let's do our discussion for Adjust Your Life, Chapter 10. So we're back in sort of the present story arc or plot line where Hada is recovering from smoke inhalation from that fire that he accidentally set in his house. Um, he's visited by his friend Rennie Banjari, and it seems as if Rennie and Liv have rekindled their on again, off again relationship. It's now on again. And both of them have sort of taken an interest in Hada's well being, his health, um, and they sort of look after him as he recovers from this accident. And we have a little hint of a reunion. So Hada receives a get well card and it's unsigned, but he senses that it is actually from his daughter, Sunny, who he has not talked to for, over, I think, 10 years at this point. Sunny would be, 32 years old at this time. And Hada will decide to sort of go and I don't know if he's going to spy on her, if he just wants to sort of see her from afar or make sure she is doing all right. But he knows she works at Ebbington Mall at a women's retail, clothing retail store. So he goes to the mall and they are actually reunited. So he does meet Sunny again after all these years of estrangement. But this is after he has sort of suffered some sort of coughing attack while he's at the mall. So it seems as if it's almost like not really a panic attack, but maybe a little bit. But his lungs aren't exactly the strong as they have been after his accident with the fire. But it is almost like a moment of rebirth for his relationship with Sunny, so with his daughter. So Hada sees Sunny and her son for the first time he sees Sunny for the first time in almost 13 years, and he's never met his grandson, Thomas. So he sort of sees them from afar. She's dropping off her son at the child care center, and he sort of watches them from afar, and then she makes eye contact with him, and it's sort of this moment of recognition between father and daughter. So on page 209, we have this moment of recognition in the middle of the page. She stares, and for a moment we are transported back in time as if we were caught up again in that long, dry stare of her youth, that severe, bloodless regard she'd offer up from across the kitchen table, or the dark water of the pool, or from the sidewalk in front of the store, where she'd lean against the parking meter and smoke her spice-scented cigarettes. But now I see that more than anything else, she is simply acknowledging me, her eyes half angry and half sad, and I wonder if my threadbare red cardigan and bulky corrective shoes and loose hanging slacks I am something of a horrendous sight for her eyes. So she doesn't want her father to talk to Thomas. She wants to sort of keep her son unaware that he has a grandpa. And they have this conversation, and it's become apparent that Sunny's, the Ebbington Mall is kind of in economic a decline, and the mall is kind of going out of business. Her store is going out of business. So there is this kind of hint that maybe she reached out to her father as a sort of measure of desperation, perhaps to get his help in this time of need. So he also contemplates whether or not there is any sense of love between them, whether there was just obligation through their adoption or his adoption of her, or whether there was actually some form of love. And it does, you know, he's unsure whether or not there was any sort of feelings of goodwill or love between father and daughter. And yet he sort of contemplates whether their relationship was anything other than just a sense of sort of duty or obligation. And then the end of the chapter, we have him contemplating this. So he says, I think how it is that Sunny was able to send that card to me unsigned as it was, a message and non-message, for the sole sake of her boy. And the idea entreats me once more to wonder if something like love is forever victorious, truly conquering all, or if there are those like me, those who, like me, remain somehow whole and sovereign, still live unvanquished. So he sort of says, you know, he's quite wordy sometimes, you know, it's hard to sort of dissect some of his language, but he's wondering if love is victorious, or if there are those like himself who are sort of forever unvanquished, unconquered by love. So for him, he understands himself as maybe not given more towards duty and obligation, the gestures of life, rather than any sort of emotional bonding like love between a father and daughter. So he's unconquered, unvanquished by love. He's somebody who maybe has not, you know, remains loveless and somewhat cold and emotionally detached from those around him. That would also be sort of evident in his failed relationship with Mary Burns, if you remember that relationship. So there is one flashback scene that I want to mention in chapter 10 that's kind of important. So as Hadda looks at Thomas, he notices, you know, that Thomas has, you know, ethnic characteristics. He's described on the bottom of 208. The boy of hers, bestowed as he is, with her high, narrowing eyes and her black hair, though it's tightly curled, near afro, and her warm, nut-colored skin, though I wonder why he isn't darker. So he acknowledges there's, you know, probably he is the son of Lincoln, he's assuming, Sunny's African-American boyfriend at the time, when she was younger at least. And he acknowledges or remembers seeing Sunny the first time when he adopted her, so meeting her for the first time, and then mentioning the color of her skin. So page 204 is this flashback to when he first acknowledges Sunny's ethnicity, and how it initially sort of disappointed him because it was apparent that she was not full-blood Korean, but sort of biracial or multiracial. So in 204, he remembers a skinny, jointy young girl with thick, wavy black hair and dark-hued skin. I was disappointed initially. The agency had promised a child from a hard-working, if squarely humble, Korean family who had gone down on their luck. I had wished to make my own family, and if by necessity the single-parent kind, then at least one that would soon be well-reputed and happily known, the Haddas of Bedley Run. But of course I was over-hopeful and naive, and should have known that he or she would likely be the product of a much less dignified circumstance, a night's wanton encounter between a GI and a local bar girl. I had assumed the child and I would have a ready natural affinity, and that my colleagues and associates and neighbors though knowing her to be adopted would have little trouble quickly accepting our being of a single kind and blood. But when I saw her for the first time, I realized there would be no such conceit for us, no easy persuasion. Her hair, her skin, were there to see, self-evident, and it was obvious how some other color or colors ran deep within her. And perhaps it was right from that moment, the very start, that the young girl sensed my hesitance, the blighted hope in my eyes. So Sunny's sort of race or ethnicity is a disappointment for Hadda, who wanted his daughter to sort of look like him, and he's sort of recognizes that this was a recognition for Sunny, seeing kind of disappointment in her father's eyes when he sees that she is not solely Korean, but of sort of multiracial. Her dark hued skin and wavy black hair suggest that perhaps her father or one side of her family would have African American ethnicity. So this is a sort of disappointment and separation between father and daughter that is sort of based on race or ethnicity, and the difference that he sees in their own sort of skin color. And it's sort of interesting in regards to his own sort of sense of prejudice, seeing his daughter, his adopted daughter, for the first time. And it sort of speaks for how kind of cold or idealistic even Hadda is in his adoption. It seems as if he wants Sunny to look a certain way, and he's disappointed when she doesn't meet his expectations, even sort of just on the surface of how she looks. So we can sort of understand why their relationship became so emotionally estranged and distant from one another, because there's this element of disappointment that goes deeper than just her failing at piano. It seems as if she from the very start wasn't good enough for him, and he had a kind of prejudice against her based on just the way she looked. It's also indicated there that she was conceived by a less dignified circumstance, a wanton encounter between a GI and a local bar girl. So that's his perception of her, how she was sort of conceived. So he sort of points to her origins as being, not reputable, not dignified. This would be like perhaps she was, conceived during the Korean War. And we do have a GI officer and a local girl having a child together, or conceiving a child, and then she goes up for adoption. So he sort of links his daughter to this undignified, almost like a one-night stand. And this is also something that kind of taints her reputation, or that already sort of links her to an undignified or not reputable origin. And for Hadda, of course, he's all about his reputation, all about sort of maintaining a sense of dignity, and very concerned about how others view him. So the fact that his daughter is comes from is sort of multiracial and was probably sort of born from a one-night stand, kind of ruins his reputation in a way, or disappoints him, or is some sort of stain on his perfect reputation.